previous session, we understood that what are the components, what are the prerequisites required for vMotion. Why vMotion is required? To configure to work on cluster features. What are the cluster features? We understood that it is HA and DRS. To work HA and DRS, we need to understand what is the technology is required, what are the components are required to perform a HA and DRS. Okay, that is automatic failover, what are the load balancing, all those things is going to happen by HA and DRS. We already understand that what are the prerequisites. Okay, shared storage, same network, and all those things. Not only those 5 things, 5 components, the other important component is we need to make sure respective vMotion network. vMotion network. What is a vMotion? We understood that vMotion is nothing but it is a virtualization technology to migrate one VM from one ESXi host to another ESXi host. Okay, we can do manual migration. Either we can do auto initiation. Auto initiation in the sense it is going to happen through HA and DRS. Before understanding how DRS is going to work, we need to understand how vMotion is going to work, because vMotion is a requirement to migrate one VM from one ESXi host to other ESXi host. So for a virtual machine, what are the virtual machine we need to migrate? What are the prerequisites to meet that virtual machine to migrate? It should be on a shared storage. Same network should be there on both the ESXi host. Rest of the things, shared storage resources are available. Volume we need to consider for that virtual machine. Same network should be there on both ESXi host source and destination. And the VM files should be located on a shared storage. Okay, that is a prerequisite. Now, not only that, for a VM, to migrate a VM, what is additional component is required on a ESXi host? We need to enable vMotion network. How to enable vMotion network? Go to select configuration, choose the management interface. Networking. We need to go to switch properties where the management network is there. We need to go there and then select properties and check that vMotion is enabled or not. Okay, and that is a prerequisite to migrate a VM from source to destination. In enterprise environment, in a live environment, generally they are going to create a separate vMotion network and separate a switch. Okay, we need to make sure both the destinations are having the same configuration, vMotion network configuration. Even what are the components we are looking at the virtual machine layer, the same thing we need to check at the ESXi host layer. That in the sense, both source and destination should have a vMotion enabled. Okay, that is a important point. Without that, I'm not going to get an option to migrate a VM from one ESXi host to another ESXi host. Let's see how the auto migration is going to happen, the manual migration. After that, we are going to work on what are the features are available in HA and DRS. Okay, click close. We deployed, we migrated, check that storage, and close. We have two VMs, desktop 1 and desktop 2. Both VMs are we are going to migrate and see what is eligible for migrate, what is not eligible for migrate. Let's see. Right click on desktop 1, go to edit settings. As this is a lab environment, the resource constraint is there. That's the reason it is taking too much time. We don't have any other option to perform these migrations. Okay, let's see what are the things we need to check. First, we need to check hard disk. Is it in a shared storage or local data store? Select hard disk. Where this is, it is in a shared storage. That is fine. Next one, network. What is a network? It is an VM network. Okay. Network, select network. I'm going to change few things. Let's see what are the things I'm going to perform a manual migration for desktop 1 and desktop 2. Both the things, how it is going to impact while migrating, what are the things it is checking. Let's see. Drop down network label. Select finance. Okay. I'm changing a few modification to make better understanding. Okay. Let's click OK. Now go to desktop 2. Desktop 2 or desktop 3? Desktop 3. Edit settings. If the vMotion network is not enabled on the ESXi host, we are not going to get a migrate option for ESXi host to other ESXi host. Select the hard disk and see what is the component is there. This is also shared storage. How I am able to recognize the way of the data store name, we created a shared storage. Okay. By understanding data store file, it is a local data store or where the store file it is located, we are going to see that while migrating also. Let's understand VM, select VM network. These two things we need to check. And that is fine. See here, CD-ROM is connected to local data store. CD-ROM location is local data store path is there. What do I need to make sure? The CD-ROM we need to deselect. While migrating the VM, what we need to select client device. Select client device. Yes. Okay. While migrating VM, what are the prerequisites in the sense? Files, what are the files are located, what are the files are in use, those files should be on shared storage. And the important thing is that this particular VM, none of the component is bind with ESXi host. It should not bind with the ESXi host. For example, if any floppy drive or any device, hardware device on ESXi host is sharing with the VM, the VM should not have any physical communication, physical sharing with the respective ESXi host. If any device is sharing that VM, we are not in a position to migrate. For example, I'm going to showcase what is a component it is going. For example, I'm going to show host device. Select host device here. Select host device. Yes. Just click OK. That's no problem. Click OK. I'm just showing them while migration, what are the errors we are going to get, like we need to understand. Okay. Now select go ahead and migrate, select desktop one, choose migrate option. What I'm going to do is I'm migrating these two VMs from one ESXi to another ESXi. First, where is this? And desktop one, where in which ESXi host it is in? Check that first. Go to summary. Go to summary. It is in ESXi2. Okay. Where is desktop 3? It is on 1. That's fine. 1 is there on 2. Okay. Open notepad. Just note down. Open notepad. Just so desktop 1 is there on ESX2, right? And the IP address is, note down IP address also. It is 192.168.11. Okay. Now desktop 3 is there on lab ESX1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to migrate these two components one to other. Like desktop 3, I'm going to migrate from 1 to 2. Desktop 1, I'm going to migrate 2 to 1. Let's see how it is going to happen and what are the component it is going to check. We'll cross check all those components. Okay. What is a okay? Now go ahead and right click on desktop 1 and see while selecting a migrate option. Desktop 1 is there on ESX2. I'm going to migrate to ESX1. Let's see how it is migrating and what are the things it is going to cross check. Let's understand that. Okay. Right click on desktop 1. See, because vMotion network is enabled on source and destination ESXi host, that's the reason this option, change host option, is going to get a highlight. Otherwise, it will be in grayed out. We are not going to get an option. Without enabling vMotion network, we are not going to get an option of change host. Okay. That is one indication. If you are not getting change host, in the sense there is no communication between source and destination for that respective ESXi host. Okay, what are the VM we are going to trying to migrate? It is going to check what are the my target, where I need to go. Within a cluster, it is going to check all ESXi hosts. First, the respective ESXi host should be enabled vMotion. If vMotion network is not enabled, by default, you are not going to get a change host option. It will be grayed out. Okay. Next, change data store. By default, if a data store is there, there is no requirement of shared vMotion network. We can migrate the storage. Okay. The third option, change both host and data store. This option will be enabled if a power of VM is there. We'll see that one also. Okay. Now change host. Select that. Proceed next. It is going to validate. It is there on ESXi host 2. Now I'm going to select ESXi host 1. While selecting destination ESXi host, it is going to check what are the components it is matching. Everything is there. Resources are available. Shared storage is available. Network is available. Everything it will check and validation will be completed. Select ESXi host 1. The desktop 1, it is there on ESX2. I'm selecting ESX1. See what it is happening. It is throwing us the error that no guest heart beating. This is a warning. This is not an error. I can easily migrate this particular VM from source to destination. That in the sense, both storages and shared storage network is available. It is only checking that VM tools is not configured correctly. That is not an issue. Open command prompt and try to ping that server, that particular VM. Open command prompt. What is the IP of desktop 1? It is a 10. Try to ping the 10 and we'll try to start the migration and see is it in a ping response is failed or not, is it continuous ping response or not. What is the intention? We are doing a manual migration from one ESXi host to another ESXi host. So with live motion, we can say that vMotion, whatever the manual migration we are doing here, it is a kind of live migration. That in the sense, there is no impact to the VM. There is no downtime. So how do we perform from one ESXi host to another ESXi host? So we verified all the prerequisites. Let's go ahead and click next. Let's see on the network ping request, is there any disturbance is there on the network or not. High priority. Okay, click next. Finish. And while doing this migration, you can monitor this ping request and see what it is going to happen. It is going to migrate. How the vMotion is going to perform migration, we discussed in last session. Like vMotion is going to happen, first it is going to check the network and it is going to establish communication and it is going to work in a three-phase direction. If you go to internet and search vMotion, there are three components it is going to check. The memory technology is the important thing, storage is an important thing, network is one thing. It is going to migrate coming to the memory. Currently, the connected network interface network use finance, which is not accessible. So, what does that mean? The network adapter, whatever the network adapter, this desktop one using the finance network, finance virtual machine network. That finance virtual machine network is not available on destination. Generally, it is going to check during validation itself, but during the migration, it is going to check and throws an error that finance network is not available. What we understood during vMotion pre-request is both network label, whatever the port group it is using the VM, that VM network port group should be there on the destination. For the intentionally I selected finance because the finance network port group is available only on ESX2. It is not available on ESX1. Not only port group name, even one letter, one space also matters here. What is important here? Both places, both ESXi host source and destination should have a same network port group. Okay, we are going to correct that. Click OK. Go to VM desktop 1, change the network setting to finance to VM network. After modification, I'm going to show you what is a finance port group and where is that port group. Okay, both source and destination should have a same port group. Otherwise, it is not going to communicate. Change to VM network. I'll show you. Go to ESX host 1, configuration, networking. See here, be there. See here, it is a finance is there. VM network is there. Only two port groups are available. One is virtual machine port group, that is VM network. Other one is management network. There is no finance port group. That's the reason it throws an error. Go to ESX host 2. Here, finance is there, VM network is there, and management network. So what I need to do, I need to change the configuration. Okay, whatever the network virtual machine is working, where the virtual machine is working currently, the desktop one is there on VM network. I changed that. I changed to finance previously for intentionally. Why? Because it is going to fail. The vMotion is going to fail because the same network should be there. That is a network verification. And we already make sure the storage is shared storage. Okay, now we are going to proceed with the same option. Go to migrate and we change the virtual machine network setting from network finance to VM network. VM network is available on both source and destination ESXi host. Okay. First check that network is pinging or not. Open command prompt. Okay, it is getting ping response. Now go ahead. Choose ESXi host 1. Do the migration. Before configuring HA and DRS, we need to make sure that migration is working properly. Then only we can perform. Okay. Next. Next. Finish. Let's monitor this particular ping request. Is there any ping request? Is there any issue for this way migration? Generally, vMotion network, they are going to configure in live environment for the dedicated network. Dedicated network in the sense, the dedicated ports will be there for vMotion network. Whatever the ESXi host are going to configure, management interface will be there for management purpose, one network's dedicated network. For vMotion, they are going to maintain separate dedication network for vMotion. That is one more important thing, that vMotion network. What are the vMotion network? We are open the command prompt. It is migrated successfully. There is no downtime. See, I'm able to get the ping response. There is no downtime. Okay. See, go to desktop 1 where the ESXi now, it changed from lab 1 to lab ESXi host 2 to lab ESXi host 1. See in the below, the desktop 1 is there on ESXi host 2. Now it is migrated to ESXi host 1 without any downtime. Now I'm going to migrate desktop 3 from ESXi host 1 to what I'm going to do? Desktop 3 I'm going to migrate to select production cluster, select production cluster, virtual machine tab. From here also I can see where the ESXi host desktop 1 is, where it is desktop 1 and desktop 3. We can see where the ESXi host 1. Okay. Select a name, click on name, click on name. Yes. So desktop 1 is there on ESX1, even desktop 3 is there on ESX1, right? Now I'm going to migrate desktop 3 from ESX host 1 to ESX3, ESX2. Let's do it. Select right click desktop 3 and see validation is validated. Intentionally I configured something, but it should throw an error. Why it is throwing an error? Intentionally I configured some change on this particular virtual machine. Let's see what it is going to throw an error. I told you vMotion to migrate a VM, the resources should be shared. There should not be any lock, any hardware direct interface directly connected to ESXi host. If any device, physical device is shared by respect to ESXi host, that VM, it is not going to allow you to migrate. Let's see, is it going to throw an error or not? Select next. Currently, it is there on ESXi host 1. I am going to change to ESXi host 2. Let's see by selecting what is error it is going to throw and understand what is that we need to modify. It is going to validate all the components. What are the components are there? Is everything is available to migrate or not? See, we can migrate if the yellow mark, exclamation mark, if comes, we can migrate. Some modification, some issue will be there. If it is throwing a critical error, it won't allow you to migrate. What I did, I changed the CD-ROM device connected to host device. I purposefully changed the virtual machine hardware. What is the virtual machine hardware? I selected CD-ROM to access the host CD-ROM. Wherever it is running, I selected the desktop to access the host CD-ROM. That's it is throwing an error. It should not have any direct interface, direct sharing with the physical devices. If it is accessing any physical device, any component with the respect to ESX servers, it won't allow you to migrate. So to migrate this IBM, what I need to do? I need to choose CD-ROM, I need to select deselect if it is possible. Otherwise, it won't allow you to migrate. See, the next tab itself, it is not going to available. You cannot migrate this VM. So cancel here, go to desktop 3, right click edit settings. So what we need to understand by performing this lab, we need to understand none of the hardware device should be shared with the ESXi host. If any device is shared with ESXi host, you are not in a position to migrate the VM. See here, CD-ROM what I selected, host device. Host device in the sense, the host CD-ROM is going to access to this VM. That's the reason if there is a physical connection between the ESXi host to this VM. That's the reason it won't allow you to migrate. So I need to choose the client device. Choose the client device. Okay, that's it. Now I am ready to migrate this VM as well. Let's see validation it is going to complete successfully. So what do you need to understand? For migration, vMotion, there should not be any physical access for the respective VM. That is the first thing. Okay. In addition to all prerequisites in the sense Network should be same. Network should be available on source and destination. Data store. The VM related file should be on a shared storage. That file should be accessible by both ESXi host, source and destination. Then third component is vMotion should be enabled on both the ESXi hosts. And fourth point is there should not be any physical device attached to VM to perform a migration. Now select next, choose ESXi host 2. It's still throwing an error. It's not refresh the information because we already changed cancel. I again choose the migration. It's already completed. See the reconfiguration. Check that edit setting. Go to edit setting and see is it changed or not. It's not there. Client device is there, so no issues. Now it's ready to go ahead. Can click cancel. Okay, no problem. Okay, let it refresh and migrate. Click migrate. If the vMotion network, for example, for still throwing an error, no issues. It's not refreshed that virtual machine. No problem. Leave it. The important point is we'll try later. Okay. Again, go to edit settings. Click on OK for that particular VM. This issue already we resolved the issue, but still it is facing an issue. Let's do click on OK again. The important point that the vMotion network. What is a vMotion network? If the vMotion network is having an issue, okay. For example, if the vMotion network is running on 100 Mbps or 10 Mbps, imagine how much time it is going to take. Because the vMotion network, what it is going to perform, whatever the VM's memory, what is vMotion is going to happen, the memory content, the active pages and idle pages. It is first page, the idle pages is going to transfer from source to destination. If the memory configuration is 2 GB or 10 GB or 8 GB, whatever the memory configuration, if it is my network, vMotion network is a 100 Mbps or 10 Mbps network, this vMotion migration takes long time. Okay, even you may face the downtime also. The request time or the server is not going to ping because in your vMotion there it is going to perform in three phases. In first phase, what it is going to do, it identifies what is the ideal pages. Out of 4 GB RAM, it is going to identify ideal pages and transfer that content from source to destination. Then next, it is going to second phase. Again, it checks any other ideal pages are available or not and transfer the content to source to destination. In final phase, it is going to suspend the VM for a fraction of a second. And what are the active pages are there? It is going to migrate, move from source to destination. If my vMotion network is having 100 Mbps or 10 Mbps, what will happen? It is going to take long time. Automatically, I can see there is a downtime. Generally, in live environment and enterprise environment, there will be a dedication vMotion network with either 10 Gbps network, 10 Gbps cards. Generally, all ESXi host, whatever the production environment they are going to run, they are going to work on 10 Gbps network or 1 Gbps network. Okay, that's the reason we need to make sure what are the vMotion network we are going to use. It should have a full bandwidth in full duplex. What are the max bandwidth is available? We need to make sure. Otherwise, we can see the migration may fail or the VM is going to out of response. Okay, try to migrate the desktop 3 is refresh. Still throwing an error. What is that error? The target does not support the virtual machine current hardware requirement. Okay. It's okay, no problem. What is the compatible that is throwing in a different error? Not only the device which is we are going to talk about, it is throwing in a different error, EVC, enhanced vMotion compatibility. We'll come to that enhanced vMotion compatibility. What is the vMotion? Till now, what we did, there is a compatibility. The cancel here, I'm going to convert this EVC. What is EVC? We will come back on cluster features. Okay, we'll go to understand what is EVC. Okay, during the cluster features and enable HADRS, and then EVC is going to come into picture. What is the EVC is going to work? Even it is going to check the CPU configuration. What is CPU configuration in the sense? Now the desktop 3 is running on ESXi host 1. What is the ESXi host 1? There is a CPU compatibility. CPU is go to ESXi host 1. ESXi host 1, go to summary. See, here what you need to understand during the vMotion, we discussed about all the components. One more important thing, whatever the servers we are going to configure in a cluster, generally it is very important to configure this cluster with the same hardware feature. Same hardware features in the sense, same hardware model. Why same hardware model? The same hardware model in the sense it is going to have a same CPU configuration. Even if it is a both Intel chipset, both Xeon chipset, no issues. But the thing is that for each chipset, each version processor, even Intel Xeon also, there are different product families are there. Okay, so for a processor should be in same. When we are going to choose CPU for the same function, if you choose the same hardware within a cluster, that is one more important requirement. If that requirement we are not in a position to meet, that in the sense here in ESXi host 1, we are using Intel Xeon CPU X3430. What is the processor type? Intel Xeon CPU X3430. That is the CPU model we are using under ESXi host 1. What is under ESXi host 2? Select ESXi host 2, go to summary. This is a different CPU family. Whereas in previous something else, now it is a CPU E353 something. Now, both are Intel Xeon chipset, but CPU architecture slightly different because it's a different model. One is a Dell server, one is IBM server. Okay, if IBM server using the same CPU model, that is not an issue. Generally, how it is requirement is what the requirement we need to fulfill is whenever we are going to create a cluster, we need to make sure whatever the ESXi host we are going to add, that ESXi host should be having same model. If you achieve same model, definitely it is going to have a same CPU family, same CPU architecture. If, for example, there is no possibility to add a same model, or so what we are going to do is to match this compatibility issue. Different families are there, different CPU families are there. There is an option comes in EVC mode, EVC, enhanced vMotion compatibility, where we need to enable that enhanced vMotion compatibility. One, we are going to use this because we need to match both CPU family. There is a compatibility CPU families. Both should under some compatibility. Then only we can perform the VM migration. We perform one VM migration from ESXi host 2 to 1. Okay, 2 to 1 successfully migrated. There is a downward compatibility is available. But from ESXi host 1 to 2, we are not in a position to migrate. Why? It is because of there is no compatibility from that particular version to this particular version. One way it is allowed, but other direction it is not allowing because maybe CPU family higher version or lower version, like that. Okay, so generally whenever we are going to create a cluster, we make sure we are going to create a cluster with the same hardware features. Okay, that is a requirement. Now let's understand where is the cluster features. We know we perform the vMotion. How to perform vMotion? We completed that. We are going to enable VVC mode. Let's see where to enable EVC mode. And once the EVC mode is enabled, we are go ahead to migrate the VMs. Okay, to enable EVC mode, we need to power off the VMs. We are going to do that. Okay, what we are going to do, we are going to shut down the VM and migrate that. Before shutting down the VM, what we need to understand, what is the CPU family belongs to? There are certain CPU families come into picture. Let's go ahead and see what is the CPU features. Go to production, right click, go to edit settings. See here, we are going to discuss about Tarnan Esperechia DRS later. Now we are going to understand what is VVC, enhanced vMotion compatibility. When this EVC going to come into picture? When there is a different CPU families are available in the same cluster, we need to enable this EVC so that whatever the VM is running currently one ESXi host, it should have a compatibility CPU family and source destination also. If it is not available, we have to come here and enable EVC. Select VMware VVC. Currently, it is in disable state. Now I'm going to enable change EVC mode. Click on change EVC mode. Select enable EVC mode. There are different two families, AMD processors and Intel processors. What my processors currently now? I need to make sure while creating a cluster, I cannot create a cluster. One is Intel, another one is AMD. If I'm going to configure same cluster, I need to make sure at least Intel processors on all hardware. You should not create a cluster with a different CPU architectures, like different vendors. I cannot create AMD and Intel in the same cluster. I cannot migrate the VMs. That is a basic requirement. If I'm going to configure AMD, I need to make sure whatever the ESXi host I'm going to create a cluster, I need to make sure all ESXi hosts are having AMD processors at least. It could be different model in AMD processors, but the base model should be AMD processor. Now, in my cluster currently, it is both Intel Xeon processors, but both are different Xeon families. To make a mutual configuration, I need to enable EVC for Intel host. Select enable EVC for Intel host. I should not select AMD. AMD when we need to select different families. Now it is going to see what are the families are going to see. It is drop down is there. It is not validating. See, I selected Intel. There are different families are there. Drop down, select drop down. These are the different families. You need to select one by one, and so that it is going to check the compatible. Both ESXi hosts should be compatible. In this particular model, Intel family, the compatibility EVC mode, it is not validate because the one is supporting this particular family, other ESXi host is not supporting. So select next one. These are the available models are available. You need to select each one and understand is it compatibility or not. See, this particular model, both ESXi hosts are not compatible. So go for next one. I need to select whatever the compatible for both ESXi hosts. Then we need to select that one and proceed next. Okay. It is not compatible with one thing. Okay, choose next one. The same thing. It is not. Let's validating. Both are not compatible. Both are throwing an error. Next, choose. It's the same error. Choose next one. What are available options are available? We need to select all the options and try to check is it compatible or not. If the available options are not compatible with anything, we cannot do anything. We cannot enable, we cannot migrate the VMs. Okay. Drop down. Final option. Even it is also not compatible, then we cannot migrate the VMs from one ESXi host to another ESXi host. What is the basic rule? We need to make sure both CPU families should be compatible with the available EVC mode. If both families should compatible either one of the EVC mode, then only I can migrate the VM from one ESXi host to another ESXi host. This is a CPU compatibility. Now, the thing is that whatever the cluster I created, that cluster's ESXi hosts are having a different families. Both families are related to Intel Xeon, but the problem is here, both processors are not come under one particular compatibility family. That's the reason it is throwing an error. What are the available options? We need to choose. Now it is not available EVC. So we cannot enable EVC, disable EVC. There is no compatibility. So I cannot perform migration from ESXi host 2 to ESXi host 1 to ESXi host 2. Click OK. So to perform migrations, what I can do is I can do only from migration from ESXi host to ESXi host 1 only. What are the actions I'm going to do? I can power off and move back. Cancel. Okay here. Click OK. What I'm going to do is I'm going to perform offline migration. Shut down desktop 3. Right click, shut down desktop 3. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to perform an offline migration. Till now, the desktop one, what I did for the desktop one, I did a live migration, that is vMotion. Now, desktop 3, I'm going to migrate from ESXi host 1 to ESXi host 2. In live migration, I'm not in a position to migrate because EVC compatibility mode, because both are running on say a different CPU family. Why it is not allowing in the sense, this particular VM is using the CPU resources, CPU instructions, because it has to remap what are the CPU instructions, it has to remap from source to destination. While remap, the same CPU instruction should be compatible on destination. Other than that, it won't allow you to migrate. So what I did, it is not allowing. Either I need to change the EVC mode or I need to shut down the VM and then migrate. Now I selected shutdown. Now it is what it is going to happen is, it is going to remap. Okay, offline migrations can be done from anywhere to anywhere. Now it is there on ESXi host 1. I'm going to migrate to ESXi host 2. Right click and migrate. See, I'm getting both all three options. I can change data store, I can change the host, I can change host and hardware also. Okay, why? Because it is in power off state, it is going to get a third option also. Generally, this third option is available in web client for live servers as well. Okay, that is additional features which possible only through web client. Now what I'm going to do is from ESXi host on to ESXi host 2, I'm going to migrate. During this migration, it is not going to take much time because it is going to change the pointers. That's it. It is going to change the pointers from ESXi host 1 to ESXi host. Let's do it. Select choose here host, change host. Next, choose 2 ESXi host 2. 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 Choose 2 ESXi So validation succeeded because there is no pointer, there no need to mount or no need to do anything. In vMotion, what is happens? It migrates the active pages and offline ideal pages. In the power of server, there is no transfer, just a remapping. Just in fraction of second, it will remap. That's it. Okay, click next. It is offline migration. Okay, click finish. In offline migration, vMotion is not going to come into picture. Okay, vMotion is nothing but it is perform live motion, live migration that we call it live migration without any downtime. It is going to perform one ESXi host to another ESXi host. In offline migration, what it is going to do, it is going to change just the pointers. It is going to change the pointers from one ESXi host to another ESXi host. It's just unregisters, unregisters, and destination. That's it. Okay. Once it is done, we'll try to migrate from back to ESXi host 1 because there is a one-way compatibility is there. We are going to check again. Then we are going to configure cluster features, HA and DRS. DRS is going to work on vMotion. Okay. HA is going to work on offline migration because in HA, what is going to happen? There is a different technology is going to come into picture. We'll discuss in next session what HA is going to work and what technology it is going to work. In DRS, it is going to work. It is work on based on vMotion, vMotion live migration. Okay. In HA, it is going to work on. It is going to restart the VM, unregister and register on different place. That's it. Okay, remapping because ESXi host down. HA is a proactive reactive approach. So while creating cluster, we need to check all these features, all these requirements. We need to meet all the requirements which are required for migration. Why I'm going to configure DRS? To make sure load balance is available. To make sure load balance is available in the sense whatever the running VM without any downtime, it should migrate from one ESXi host to another ESXi host. Then what technology it is going to use? It is going to use vMotion technology. Okay, so first we need to understand vMotion. What is a vMotion prerequisite is? What are the checks it is going to check? Same network, it should be shared storage. The final component we came across, that is EVC, Enhanced vMotion Compatibility. Why EVC came into picture? Because both ESX are hosted in the cluster having a different CPU family. That's the reason it is throwing an error. Okay, that is the features of vMotion requirements. Without understanding vMotion requirements, in the DRS we cannot configure, HA we cannot configure it. The VM is not in a position to migrate.